Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Ashford Teaching and Learning Conference. My name is Alan Belcher, and I'll be your host for this session, which is titled Pause, a Tool for Academic Writing Feedback. Your microphones will be muted for the presentation, but I encourage you to post questions in the chat, and Jen has agreed to respond to them at the end. Also, keep your eye on the chat as I will post a link for you to respond to about this particular presentation. But I'm very pleased to introduce to you our speaker for your next dose of TLC for the day, Dr. Jen Robinson. Jen has been teaching at Ashford full-time since 2016. She currently teaches everything from the associate's degree through the doctorate. Her current research interests are in two areas: helping faculty provide effective feedback and in developing professional learning communities. So during this presentation, if you have questions, just put them in the chat and Jen will attempt to answer them at the end. And Jen, it's all yours.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Alan. Thank you all for being here today. I know you had so many choices, and I'm excited to share this project with you and hopefully provide some useful information that you can take away into your own teaching immediately. As we move through the next few minutes or so, think about these questions. How do your current feedback practices support students' learning? And are there any revisions you can make to your feedback practices to ensure students are able to immediately benefit from your feedback? As a faculty member and an instructional quality reviewer at our university, I noticed that many of our faculty struggle with providing feedback. I noticed there would be a heavy reliance on providing feedback about APA without much reference to content. Or there might be a suggestion to go to the Writing Center without providing much more information about why the student should go to the Writing Center. In my face-to-face conferences with faculty, we would discuss providing feedback in a way that is not only balanced, but specific. I began to reach out to literature to see what I could uncover about providing feedback for two reasons. One, I wanted to make sure I was using research-based information. And two, so I could better articulate why this is important. One challenge in online higher education is providing effective and meaningful feedback. However, providing feedback can feel daunting to faculty who have so many papers to grade and have students with writing gaps. Still, it is important that students are given feedback that supports the various dimensions required for content area and academic writing. So we're just going to do a quick poll. I know we are limited on time, but I just want to see how you feel about this. So our first question is, how confident do you feel, oh, that's a typo. How confident do you feel providing praise to students based on their work and writing? So just quickly in the chat, type in extremely confident. You're doing well, neutral, or you need advice. So how confident do you feel providing feedback, providing praise to students? Excellent. Could always use advice. I appreciate that. Yay. Yes, I feel the same way. I can always do better. What about this one? How confident do you feel providing applicable feedback to students? In other words, does your feedback help the student improve immediately? Do you feel extremely confident, doing well, neutral, or might you need some advice? Providing applicable feedback. Good. Oh, we're doing well. Excellent. Okay. For the sake of time, I'm going to keep going, so stay with me. How confident do you feel providing feedback that's understandable? In other words, will the student be able to interpret your feedback? Yes, when they read it. I will come to that soon, Jesse. I have that, extremely confident, doing well, neutral, or need advice. Good. Oh, I love how you guys are so confident. Well, you might not need me. All right. How comfortable are you with providing specific feedback that is meant to teach students how to improve their work? In other words, is your feedback solution-centered? Are you extremely confident, doing well, and neutral, or need advice? Michael, excellent. Jesse, excellent. Well, from these folks in here, I'm not surprised. I've got some rock stars in here. All right, and finally, is your feedback encouraging? Do you use language as a way to create a foundation for dialogue to help students solve challenges with their work? Kathleen, I love your growth mindset. Confident, excellent. Doing well, but could use some guidance. Absolutely. I think, and that was part of the reason why I went out to the literature. I think we could all use a little guidance, a little help. Excuse me while I put my prompts up here. So as stated in Cleary in 2011, if universities want to keep and graduate more non-traditional students, a new approach is needed for helping students learn to write successfully. Pause is a reminder to use when providing quality written feedback to help students reach distinguished writing as defined by the subject objectives. From the literature and our own anecdotal information, I am sure online students will struggle with their writing at all levels. I currently teach AA all the way up to PhD students, and they all have their needs depending on their academic backgrounds and comfort level with writing. In an online environment, it is important to acknowledge that our students do a great deal of writing. This is the primary way they show us what they understand. Feedback about writing can help students learn how to increase their academic writing skills and find success in future classes. As faculty, being in an online environment, we can rethink how we respond to student writing, and there are so many things we can do to help our students improve. And still, our students will struggle. Some may submit work after writing one draft. Some may struggle to make their paper sound coherent, especially if they struggle to interpret informational text. And since our feedback is informational text, they may struggle to understand what exactly we want them to do. So what can we do to help students understand what we need them to do to become better writers, to convey their beautiful academic voices? And we may be contributing to the challenges our students have with writing. Are we using language that is unfamiliar or from a high school class from 20 years ago? Are we conveying our feedback in a way that is confusing or that includes indirect language that students cannot interpret or they cannot infer what we mean? Sometimes we just have to take a step back and remember that many of our students fall into an at potential category. Dr. Newton Miller at Ashford University does a great deal of writing and presenting about working with at potential students. And we can help them move forward by showing them directly how to meet that potential. But we have to be explicit in the feedback we give. For faculty, the online space can be a place to try new teaching methodology and to consider practices that may not have been possible in a face-to-face environment. While being invigorated by the process and possibilities, online instructors may find themselves in a place of needing to help students with academic writing skills. This realization challenges any assumptions about what students should know about academic writing before they enroll in an online university. The hidden curriculum of writing, such as writing a thesis, formatting a good essay, using introductory sentences and transitions between paragraphs, can create a frustrating and deflating experience for students who are less than prepared for the intense and high-level writing requirement. If students are not amenable to reaching out for assistance, it creates a great opportunity for online faculty to coach students in ways of academic writing and writing in the discipline. Now, content area instructors find themselves as writing teachers, in addition to being subject matter experts. The purpose of this study and using this acronym was to present an acronym that will help subject matter experts provide feedback meant to help students bolster their academic and subject matter writing explicitly. Oops, hang on. There we go. Pause is the result of reviewing the literature and testing it with a group of faculty. First, what does this all mean? So when you look at it, you see that there's PAUSE. That's how I came to pause. And this was looking at all of the literature I could find about writing and online students and funneling it into some categories that made sense. And this is what I came up with. So for P is praise. What did the students do well? It's so easy to just jump on in there with what they need to do, but what did they do well? Focus on writing and content and provide hope. Stephen Halfaker and Lisa Johnson from Ashford University came up with this framework of hope that tells us to be helpful, optimistic, proactive, and expert. Let's provide some praise for what our students did well. Does anybody from your high school chemistry classes remember what AU is on the periodic table? AU? AU, it is gold. Absolutely. Thank you. So the middle part of AU, I'm clumping it together, AUS, the golds, is the golden part of the feedback. And feedback provided in an online environment must be applicable. The asynchronous nature of online education means that students must be able to understand and immediately apply the suggestions put forth by an instructor. Online students must read feedback without any non-linguistic features of eye contact, body language, voice inflection as intended by the instructor. Immediately applicable, specific, and useful feedback allows students to adapt to the demands of online asynchronous learning while they sort the demands on their other time outside of school. Without feedback that provides direct suggestions for improvement, the learners may feel unsupported and then withdraw from your course and potentially the university. Feedback helps to close the gap between what students have submitted and what the desired objectives of the assignments were. When distance is a factor, the feedback becomes even more important since that face-to-face immediate feedback is not present. The distance provides space for miscommunication and misunderstanding. Understandable feedback that is accessible to students is crucial for helping them to identify themselves as higher education learners. Consider the knowledge that students need to improve. For example, when I tell my students I want them to go to the writing center, I'll say, I want you to go with your next paper to the writing center tutor, but then I tell them exactly what to ask. I'll say, when you submit your paper, tell your tutor you need help with subject-verb agreement. Or tell your tutor that you need help with sentence structure and making sure that that topic sentence and your paragraph go together, that everything in there meshes together. This way, the tutor can help the student focus, and you've helped the student with the vocabulary and the phrases to know what questions to ask. I also have pre-created videos for students. I call them micro lessons, and they're about 4 to 6 minutes long, about how to write a thesis, how to paraphrase, how to include APA so it's natural. And so as you teach a class often enough, you get the sense of when and where students will struggle. And if you have these ready-made flipped classroom type micro lessons ready to go, you can use them across all of your courses. And They provide applicable, understandable, specific feedback with non-linguistic cues. They also provide a space for you to model for your student what you expect. And then we have the E, right? Encouraging feedback. We want to use feedback that's kind, uses what we call golden language, because that provides a foundation for dialogue between you and the student. It provides an open space of communication. So now I have all of this stuff. I have all of these 3x5 cards on my wall, all of this sorted into categories. The next step was to see if it would be useful, quite frankly. I recruited some full-time and part-time faculty from the College of Arts and Sciences at Ashford University. And the idea was to provide a workshop to teach this acronym, to see if it would be of any use in providing feedback. There was a pre-test given to these faculty, and that was how I recruited them. I sent it out. Many of you probably received the email about this study. It was way back in April or May. And so we used that as the pre-test. We did the workshop explaining exactly what I just explained to you, the different components of pause. And then I collected data over 16 weeks. So every 2 weeks, I would just send out a little reminder survey, because we know from professional development research that there needs to be that check-in, right? We need that check-in every now and then. About midway through, the faculty did request to get back together. They wanted to get back together to see what everybody was doing, to generate more ideas. And it was really an exciting thing to be a part of. I just want to check time here. Okay. So I'm going to be quiet for just a moment. And I want you to just read over this. It's going to be, my teacher wait time will be pretty short. But just read over this and see if you're able to pick out the different components of pause that are in this feedback. So my teacher wait time is very short. But this is an example of what we did in the workshop. After explaining the different components, we went through several examples, and we took turns piecing out the different components that the faculty could see from the pause framework. And then we generated some of the feedback together using this framework. For the sake of time, I'm going to continue, but I have more examples. Feel free to email me. What was really interesting is, and I'm sorry these are cut off, but this was the paired t-test results that I did. And for some of them, I did confirm with a Wilcoxon to make sure everything was sensitive enough. But from the very first pre-survey here, we have some people in extremely confident, some in doing well. But after the 16 weeks, we boosted everybody up that they felt confident in doing well and providing praise for their students. The same way over here for applicable, understandable, specific. Applicable is here. You can see we got everybody up to the blue and the brown here. So it's applicable. And then understandable and specific. Still really great results. Of 50% here who felt they were doing well or extremely confident, moved everybody up to 100%. Just from giving a framework of ideas to be able to give feedback. We also had throughout this study Google Doc files that we shared. And so folks would dump their feedback into these files. There were 4 groups, and each group had their own file. So they would share with each other the different feedback they were giving, just to build off of each other's momentum. Same here in the pre-test for encouraging, nobody felt extremely confident, but we had quite a few doing well. Here we get everybody up. So the point is that by using this framework, faculty were able to increase their confidence, their self-described ability for giving feedback to students, whether it's in discussions or writing or any sort of writing feedback. I'm still analyzing some of the qualitative data, but here's something that one of the participants said, and they said, since our workshop, I feel I can provide students with better information. I'm excited to begin teaching next week to see how students will react to this new information. And the feedback was overwhelmingly positive, feeling like, okay, yeah, this isn't so terrible. I can give some balanced feedback now. So when the results of this, be kind, be understanding, our frustration does come out in our words. When we are having one of those days of, why did they not read the feedback from 2 or 3 weeks ago? It helps to have some other resources that we can use, such as those ready-made micro lessons. Maybe we did not explain it well. Maybe we need to use another example or a different metaphor. But providing positive feedback about what students have done well can help them persevere in their coursework. Focusing on only corrective feedback has the potential to minimize a student's motivation to persist in a course and to remain at a university. Students need our academic help in their writing. When providing feedback, it's important that we help students envision who they want to be at the end of their degree process, and quite a bit of that does come with their ability to write. We need to remember as faculty that we have had many, many years to develop writing. And now our task is to help our students. So as we close out today, consider how do your current feedback practices support student learning? And are there any revisions you can make to your feedback to ensure students are able to immediately benefit from your feedback? Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it.
Jen, thank you so much. Lots of great ideas there. And I'm sorry I didn't participate in that study. I probably should have. I have a question and a comment that have come from the chat. The first is, could you expand a little bit on the concept of golden language?
Oh, absolutely. So before my teaching life, I was a social worker. And one of the things we learned is to refrain from you language. You need to, you should, you could have. Instead, consider how you might do this. Consider how you might connect this paragraph to something you were reading. Consider how you might expand upon this idea in your final paper. So just using golden language, very respectful, professional language that doesn't use the you that immediately puts a student on the defensive.
Okay, thanks for that. That's helpful. And then there was a comment made too that our feedback should be error-free. I don't know if you want to comment on that and take that on.
As someone who's guilty of making errors, that's absolutely true. The idea is that we want to model for our students academic writing and scholarly voice. So everywhere we're writing, we should be error-free, and we're humans. It's going to happen. So every now and then a student will call me on it, but you had that error. You're absolutely correct. And if you were grading me, I would expect you to take off for that. But it is important that we model academic writing. And part of that is being error-free with the standard deviation of being human. And we should allow that standard deviation of being human for our students as well.
Very, very good. Thank you. Are there any other questions folks have to post in the chat? Lots of great comments for you, Jen.
I'm putting my email in here and misspelling it. Speaking of issues with typing, feel free to email me. I'm willing to share this framework. I'm hoping to take it to a bit of a wider audience for 2021. Yes, standard deviation of being human. Every now and then I come up with a good one, Debbie. So yes, Lynn, anybody feel free to email me. I'm happy to show examples of what the faculty came up with and the examples that I used in the workshop.
Well, Jen, thank you again for all of that. I do want to encourage everyone to follow the link posted in the survey to respond, to give your feedback on this, pause and give your feedback on this session for Jen and for all of the conference organizers as well. Remember, you can access all of the presentations via the TLC online event page on Eventbrite. And please, and we encourage you to continue the conversation with your colleagues, with Jen and others in attendance here. And we hope that you enjoy the rest of the Teaching and Learning Conference.